The royal palace shook as another explosion rocked its ancient walls. Princess Lyra ran through the golden corridors, her silver robes trailing behind her. The marks on her blue skin, symbols of her royal bloodline, glowed faintly in the dimming light. Smoke filled the air, and the sounds of fighting echoed through the halls. "Your Highness, this way." Captain Reed, her head of security, waved her toward the emergency escape pods. 3 royal guards followed close behind, their weapons ready. They had sworn to protect her with their lives, just as their families had done for generations. But today was different. Today, everything changed. As they reached the escape pod chamber, another explosion knocked them off their feet. Through the palace's giant windows, Lyra could see the capital city burning. Ships bearing the rebel flag flew overhead, dropping bombs on the buildings below. "The escape pod is ready," Captain Reed said, pushing buttons on the control panel. But his hands were shaking, something Lyra had never seen before. The first guard looked at his communicator and went pale. "The rebels. They've taken the throne room. The king and queen are." Lyra's heart stopped. "My parents. What about my parents?" Nobody answered. The silence told her everything. Then something unexpected happened. Captain Reed and the guards looked at each other. Their faces changed. The loyalty in their eyes disappeared, replaced by fear and selfishness. "Your Highness," Captain Reed said, backing away. "The rebels have won. The royal family is finished. We can't help you anymore." "What?" Lyra couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You swore an oath." "Oaths mean nothing to the dead," one guard said. Another added, "The rebels will kill anyone who helps you." One by one, they turned and ran, leaving their princess alone. These men, who had protected her since birth, abandoned her when she needed them most. The sound of their footsteps faded away, replaced by the growing noise of rebel soldiers. Lyra fought back tears as she jumped into the escape pod. Her hands trembled as she started the launch sequence. She had never flown one before. She had only watched others do it. The pod's computer spoke. "Warning. Navigation system damage. Random course plotted." The rebel soldiers burst into the chamber, firing their weapons. But they were too late. The pod shot out into space, carrying its royal passenger to an unknown destination. As her homeworld grew smaller behind her, Lyra checked the navigation screen. Her heart sank. The pod was heading toward the one place everyone in the galaxy feared. A small solar system with a blue-green planet called Earth. The home of humans. Every child in the galaxy learned about humans, the violent, unpredictable species that fought countless wars. The species that other aliens avoided. The killers. But Lyra had no choice. The pod's controls wouldn't respond. As she drifted toward Earth, tears floated in the zero gravity around her face. She was alone, heading toward the deadliest species in the known galaxy. Or so she thought. Dr. Tom Miller stared at his coffee cup, watching ripples form on the surface. The whole research station was shaking. Through the window of his Arctic research station, he saw what looked like a falling star. But it was moving too slowly and was far too close. "Everyone outside. Now," he shouted, grabbing his winter coat. The other 3 researchers, Jack, Mary, and Robert, followed him into the freezing Alaskan night. The object crashed about a mile away, sending snow and ice high into the air. Steam rose from the impact site, glowing under the northern lights. "That's no meteor," Mary said, adjusting her thick glasses. She pointed at the metal debris scattered across the snow. "That's a ship." They grabbed their emergency gear and walked carefully toward the crash site. The cold wind bit at their faces, but curiosity drove them forward. As they got closer, they saw it wasn't a ship, but some kind of pod. "Look," Jack pointed at footprints in the snow. Small, strange-looking footprints leading away from the crash. They followed the tracks until they found her. Hidden behind a large rock, shivering in her thin silver clothes, was a blue-skinned being. Her skin had glowing marks, and she looked almost human except for her color, and the slight points of her ears. When she saw them, her eyes went wide with terror. She tried to run but fell, weak from cold and fear. "Stay back," she shouted in perfect English, surprising them all. "I know what you humans are. Everyone knows." Tom raised his hands to show he had no weapons. "We're scientists, not soldiers. You're freezing to death. Let us help you." The alien princess, though they didn't know she was a princess yet, looked confused. She had learned humans were killers, yet these four were just standing there, offering help. "Why?" she asked, her teeth chattering. "Why would you help me?" "Because you need it," Mary said simply. "That's what humans do." Robert took off his coat and held it out to her. "You must be freezing. Please, take it." Lyra looked at each of their faces. She saw no cruelty there, no sign of the savage killers she'd been warned about, just concern and kindness. When another shiver shook her body, she made her choice. She accepted Robert's coat. "I am Lyra," she said, standing up shakily. "And I need asylum." "First, you need to get warm," Tom said. "The station's this way. We can talk more once you're safe." As they walked back, supporting their unexpected guest between them, Jack spoke into his radio. "Base, we need medical supplies ready, and maybe some hot chocolate." Lyra didn't know what hot chocolate was, but the way they all smiled at the mention of it made her feel a little safer. These humans were nothing like the stories she'd heard. They weren't trying to capture or kill her. They were just helping. For the first time since leaving her home, Lyra felt hope. Maybe, just maybe, crashing on Earth wasn't the disaster she'd thought it would be. She was right. 3 days after her crash, Lyra sat in the research station's small kitchen, watching Mary make pancakes. The simple act fascinated her. On her world, royalty never saw how food was made. But here, everyone cooked, everyone cleaned, and everyone helped each other. "Try this," Mary said, placing a steaming plate in front of her. "Maple syrup makes everything better." Lyra took a careful bite, and her eyes widened. "This is amazing." She had never tasted anything like it. Tom walked in, carrying his tablet. "Your vital signs are all normal now," he said, showing her the screen. "The cold didn't cause any lasting damage." Lyra nodded, but her face grew serious. "I need to tell you something about who I really am." The four scientists sat down as Lyra told them everything. About the coup, her parents, and how her own guards had abandoned her. When she finished, the room was quiet. "So you're not just a refugee," Jack said slowly. "You're a princess. That's why they'll keep looking for me," Lyra said, her voice shaking. "The rebels won't stop until they find me. I've put you all in danger by staying here." Robert laughed, surprising her. "Princess, this station studies dangerous Arctic weather. Danger is part of our job description." "But your stories about us," Tom said, looking curious. "You were taught that humans are killers." Lyra nodded. "All galactic children learn about Earth. About your wars, your weapons, your violence. We're taught that humans will fight over anything. Land, resources, beliefs." "Well, that part's true enough," Mary admitted. "But there's something else your teachers forgot to mention." "What's that?" "Humans fight just as hard to protect things," Mary explained, "especially people who need help." As if to prove her point, they heard helicopters approaching. Jack checked the security cameras and frowned. "Military," he said. "They must have tracked the crash." Lyra's face went pale, but Tom put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry. They're our military, not your rebels." The door opened, and a woman in a military uniform walked in. Her name tag read Commander Wilson. "Dr. Miller," she said, "we picked up the crash 3 days ago. Took us a while to get clearance to come here." She looked at Lyra. "I assume this is our visitor." Tom stepped forward. "Commander, she needs protection. She's requesting asylum." The commander studied Lyra for a long moment. An alien princess seeking refuge on Earth. This could cause an interstellar incident. Please, Lyra said quietly. I have nowhere else to go. Commander Wilson's stern face softened. Well, we can't turn away someone in need, can we? That's not what we do. She smiled. Welcome to Earth, Your Highness. Let's keep you safe. Lyra felt tears in her eyes. These humans, these supposed killers, had shown her more kindness in 3 days than her own people had in her entire life. She was starting to understand something important. Reputation and reality were very different things. A dark ship entered Earth's solar system, its stealth systems active. Inside, 3 alien assassins studied their screens. They were the best hunters in the galaxy, chosen specially for this mission. The princess's pod crashed here, the lead assassin, Dax, said, pointing to Alaska on their map. These humans are primitive. They probably killed her already. His partner, Vex, wasn't so sure. No body has been found. And these humans, he paused, checking his data. They're unpredictable. Back at the research station, Lyra was learning to use Earth technology. She sat with Jack, watching him explain how their computers worked. Suddenly, all their screens went dark. That's strange, Jack said, typing quickly. Something's blocking our satellites. Tom burst into the room. Commander Wilson just called. They've detected an unknown ship entering Earth's atmosphere. Lyra's face went white. They found me. The hunters are here. The station's alarm started blaring. Through the windows, they saw a sleek black ship landing in the snow nearby. It was smaller than Earth ships, but clearly more advanced. Everyone to the basement, Commander Wilson ordered through their radio. We have a safe room there. But Lyra didn't move. No, she said firmly. I won't hide anymore. I won't let you risk your lives for me. That's not your choice to make, Mary told her. We decided to help you. We'll face the consequences together. Outside, 3 tall figures in black armor stepped out of the ship. They carried weapons unlike anything Earth had seen before. This is too easy, Dax said, walking toward the station. These humans don't even have proper defenses. That's when the snow around them exploded. Commander Wilson had planned for this. Hidden under the snow were several military vehicles and a full team of soldiers, all pointing their weapons at the assassins. This is Earth military. Wilson's voice boomed through speakers. You are in restricted airspace. Stand down immediately. The assassins laughed. Your primitive weapons can't hurt us, Dax shouted back. Give us the princess, and we might let you live. Primitive weapons. Wilson smiled. She pressed a button on her remote. More explosions rocked the ground. The assassin ship sparked and died, hit by electromagnetic pulses hidden in the snow. Their advanced technology went dark. You're not the first aliens to underestimate us, Wilson said. Now, would you like to surrender, or should we show you why everyone thinks we're killers? Inside the station, Lyra watched in amazement. These humans, with their primitive technology, had just outsmarted the galaxy's best hunters. Still think we're helpless? Jack asked her with a grin. Lyra shook her head. She was learning something very important about humans. They might not have the most advanced technology, but they made up for it with cleverness and determination. The hunt had begun, but the hunters were about to become the hunted. Commander Wilson sat at the station's meeting table, studying the 3 captured assassins through the security cameras. Even without their fancy weapons and armor, they looked dangerous. They won't talk, one of her soldiers reported. They just keep saying we're too primitive to understand. Primitive. Tom laughed, pointing at the broken pieces of alien technology spread across the table. Mary just figured out how their ship's engine works. Mary looked up from her work, her hands covered in alien engine oil. It's actually quite simple once you understand the basics. They rely too much on advanced materials. We humans had to learn to be creative with less. Lyra watched them work with growing respect. In just one day, these humans had taken apart and understood technology that took her people centuries to develop. "There's more coming," she warned them. "These three were just the first. Then we'll be ready," Wilson said. She turned to her team. "Ideas?" Jack raised his hand. "Their technology is advanced, but it's all connected to one system. That's why the EMP worked so well. They never thought they'd need backup systems. Because they think we're too primitive to fight back," Robert added. "We can use that." Lyra stood up. "I want to help. I'm tired of hiding while others fight for me." Wilson nodded. "Good, because I have a plan. But it's a bit crazy." "Crazy works for us," Tom said, grinning. Over the next few hours, they put their plan together. Humans and alien princess working side by side, combining their knowledge. Lyra taught them about her people's technology, while the humans shared their tactics for fighting stronger enemies. "Your people rely on technology for everything," Wilson explained. "We learned to fight without it. Sometimes the old ways work best." That evening, their radar picked up 6 more alien ships entering Earth's atmosphere. "They're spreading out," Jack reported, searching in a grid pattern. "Perfect," Wilson smiled. "Time to show them why you don't underestimate humans." She turned to Lyra. "Ready?" Lyra looked at these humans, scientists and soldiers working together, preparing to fight an enemy far more advanced than themselves. They weren't afraid. They were excited. "I understand now," she said quietly. "Everyone calls humans killers because they're afraid. But they don't see what I see." "And what's that?" Mary asked. "You don't fight because you love killing. You fight because you love protecting. There's a big difference." Wilson checked her watch. "They'll be here in 20 minutes. Let's give them a proper Earth welcome." Around the station, soldiers and scientists took their positions. Their plan was simple but clever, just like humans themselves. They would use the aliens' own arrogance against them. Lyra felt something she hadn't felt since leaving home. Pride. She was proud to stand with these humans, these wonderful, creative, determined humans who refused to abandon her. The real battle was about to begin. And this time, she would fight too. Snow fell softly around the research station as the 6 alien ships descended from the night sky. Their engines glowed with purple light, illuminating the white ground below. "They're using the same formation they used on my world," Lyra said, watching from the station's window. "They think this will be easy." Wilson smiled. "Let's prove them wrong." She spoke into her radio. "All teams, ready?" "Team 1, ready." Tom's voice came through. "Team 2, ready." Mary confirmed. "Team 3, standing by." Jack and Robert reported. The alien ships landed in a circle around the station, just as Wilson had predicted they would. Their commander, a tall figure in red armor, stepped out first. "Humans," his voice boomed through a translator. "Give us the princess, and we might spare your primitive world." Wilson walked out into the snow, alone. "Primitive. That's an interesting word." She pointed to the 3 captured assassins, who stood handcuffed nearby. "Your best hunters couldn't beat us. What makes you think you can?" The alien commander laughed. "Those 3 failed because they were weak. We are not." "No," Wilson said calmly. "They failed because they were arrogant, just like you." She pressed a button on her radio. Suddenly, the snow around each alien ship erupted. Hidden beneath were not weapons, but powerful electromagnets, built by Mary using parts from the first alien ship. The magnets activated, pulling hard at the aliens' metal armor, making them stumble. "Now," Wilson shouted. From hidden positions around the station, soldiers popped up with modified weapons, also built from alien technology. They fired nets made of the same metal as the aliens' armor. The magnets pulled the nets tight, trapping the invaders. The alien commander reached for his weapon, but found it wouldn't work. While he'd been talking, Tom's team had used a focused EMP to disable their technology. "Impossible," the commander shouted. "You're just primitives." "There's something you should know about us primitives," Wilson said, walking closer. "We spent most of our history fighting enemies bigger and stronger than us. We got really good at it. The aliens struggled, but the magnetic field was too strong. Their advanced armor, which made them so powerful, now made them helpless." Inside the station, Jack and Robert activated the final part of their plan. Using the alien ship's own communication system, they broadcast everything that was happening to the entire galaxy. Lyra stepped out into the snow. "It's over," she told the commander. "You lost to the primitives." The commander looked at the humans in disbelief. Their plan had been so simple, yet so effective. They had turned his own people's technology and arrogance against them. "How?" he asked. "How did you defeat us so easily?" "Because they're not what you think they are," Lyra explained. "Humans aren't primitive killers. They're clever protectors. And they just proved it to the whole galaxy." The battle was over almost as quickly as it had begun. Earth had won its first interstellar conflict, not with superior firepower, but with human ingenuity and determination. And somewhere in the galaxy, people were starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, they had misjudged humanity. 1 week after the battle, the research station had changed. Alien technology sat next to human computers. Star maps covered the walls. And in the middle of it all, Lyra stood teaching Earth scientists about her people's history. "My ancestors ruled through fear," she explained, pointing to holographic images of her homeworld. "We thought it was the only way to control such a vast empire." "Fear only works until people stop being afraid," Mary said, taking notes on her tablet. She had already learned to read Lyra's language. Tom walked in with exciting news. The broadcast worked. "The whole galaxy saw how we defeated those ships. They're calling it the Alaska Incident." Lyra smiled. "And what are they saying about humans now?" "Still calling us dangerous," Jack laughed. "But now they're adding clever to the description." Commander Wilson entered with a serious look. "We just got a message from your home system, Princess. The rebels are losing support. People saw how they sent assassins after you, how they were willing to attack Earth. They're not happy about it." "Then it's time," Lyra said firmly. She turned to the humans. "I need to ask one more favor." "Anything," Wilson replied. "Teach me about democracy, about human rights, about all the things my people never had." Over the next few days, Lyra learned about Earth's history. She learned about revolutions and reforms, about constitutions and civil rights. She learned how humans fought not just with weapons, but with words and ideas. "Your people think we're just killers," Robert explained one evening. "But most of our greatest battles were fought without violence. We fought for freedom, for equality, for the right to choose our own leaders." Lyra thought about her own world. "My people never had these choices. We were told the royal family knew best, that we had to obey without question." "Maybe that's why your guards abandoned you," Mary suggested. "They never learned to think for themselves, to choose what's right over what's easy." Wilson brought more news. "Our scientists have studied your ship's technology. We can repair it now. You could go home," challenged the rebels. "Not yet," Lyra said. "I need to learn more first. About how humans build trust instead of fear. About how you turn enemies into friends." She looked around the room at these humans who had become her friends. Scientists and soldiers working together, sharing knowledge, planning for a better future. "My people think being powerful means having the strongest weapons," she continued. "But you've shown me real power comes from having the strongest hearts." Tom raised his coffee cup. "To cultural exchange. And to proving that the galaxy's most feared species are actually its best teachers," Lyra added. As they celebrated, Lyra knew she was learning the most important lesson of all. True strength wasn't about forcing people to follow you. It was about inspiring them to stand with you. The revolution that would change her empire was beginning, not with weapons, but with wisdom learned from the supposedly primitive humans. The research station's main room had become a war room. Maps of Lyra's homeworld covered the walls. Tom and Mary had rebuilt Lyra's escape pod, making it better than before. But this time, they were adding some special human touches. Your people rely too much on high-tech scanning, Wilson explained, pointing to their plans. They never look for simple solutions. Like what? Lyra asked. Jack grinned, holding up a small device. Like good old-fashioned radio waves. Your scanners are too advanced to notice them. Perfect for secret messages. The plan was coming together. While the rebels thought Lyra was hiding on Earth, she had been preparing. Learning. Building a network of supporters back home using Earth's primitive communication methods. Reports from your home system show the rebels are getting nervous, Robert said, checking his modified tablet. People are asking questions, demanding answers. The rebels tried to paint humans as monsters, Lyra said. But the galaxy saw humans protect a stranger while my own people betrayed me. That's making everyone think differently. Wilson looked up from her maps. Our satellites show rebel ships gathering near Mars. They're planning something big. Let them come, Lyra said with new confidence. We're ready. The rebel fleet appeared the next day, 20 ships strong. Their leader's face appeared on all screens. This is your last chance, he announced. Give us the princess, or we'll show you what real advanced weapons can do. Wilson smiled at Lyra, ready to show them our surprise. Lyra nodded. While the rebels had been making threats, Earth's scientists had been working. They had taken the captured alien ships and modified them. Not to make them more advanced, but to make them simpler, more human. Now, Wilson ordered. Hundreds of small devices launched from Earth. The rebels laughed at first, until their ship systems started failing one by one. The simple electromagnetic pulses, too basic for their advanced shields to stop, shut down their technology. But that wasn't the real surprise. Mary activated their secret weapon, a broadcasting system using the rebels' own communication network. Suddenly, every screen in the galaxy lit up. They showed proof of the rebels' crimes, their betrayals, their lies, all collected by Lyra using human technology too simple for them to detect. You called humans primitive killers. Lyra's voice boomed across space. But they showed more honor, more courage, and more wisdom than you ever did. The rebel ships hung powerless in space as their own people turned against them. Earth's primitive solutions had defeated their advanced technology once again. I don't understand, the rebel leader said as Earth ships surrounded him. How did you beat us? Because, Wilson answered, sometimes the old ways are the best ways. And humans, we're experts at the old ways. The counterstrike had worked perfectly, not through superior firepower, but through human cleverness and Lyra's trust in her new allies. The real victory, though, wasn't just defeating the rebels. It was showing the galaxy that being advanced didn't always mean being right. 6 months later, Lyra stood in her palace's grand hall. But it wasn't the same palace she had fled from. The old golden walls had been replaced with glass, letting sunlight shine in. Where armed guards once stood, now there were elected representatives from across her empire. The first meeting of the Galactic Council will now begin, she announced, looking at the faces around her. Humans sat among the alien delegates. Earth had earned its place at the table. Tom, Mary, Jack, and Robert watched from their seats, wearing Earth's diplomatic uniforms. Commander Wilson stood nearby, proudly representing Earth's military. A year ago, Lyra continued, I thought I had lost everything. My home, my crown, my people's trust. I fled to the one place everyone feared, Earth. She smiled at her human friends. But on Earth, I found something more valuable than a crown. I found a better way to lead. The galactic news channels broadcast her words to every planet. Billions watched as their former enemies, humans, sat as equals in the council. We called humans primitive because they hadn't reached our level of technology. Lyra said, we called them killers because they fought so many wars. We were wrong. She pressed a button, and the hall's walls showed images from her time on Earth, the scientists who helped her without question, The soldiers who protected her without seeking reward. The everyday people who showed her what real strength looked like. Humans taught me that true power isn't about having the strongest weapons, she declared. It's about having the strongest principles. They fight not because they love violence, but because they hate injustice. The rebel leaders, now awaiting trial, watched from their cells as their old empire transformed into something new. From today forward, we will do things differently, Lyra announced. Every world in our empire will have a voice. Every person will have rights. We will lead through trust, not fear. She turned to her human friends, tears in her eyes. Everyone abandoned me except the humans. The supposed killers showed more compassion than my own people. They proved that being advanced doesn't mean being right, and being primitive doesn't mean being wrong. Commander Wilson stepped forward, offering a hand in the Earth way of greeting. Lyra took it, and the galaxy watched as human and alien shook hands as equals. Welcome, Lyra said, to a new age, one where we judge people not by their technology, but by their actions. That evening, during the celebration, Tom found Lyra looking at the stars through the glass walls. Missing Earth? He asked. A little, she admitted. But what I learned there will always be with me. And what's that? Lyra smiled. That sometimes the most feared people can be the most caring. That true friendship doesn't care about technology or species, and that humanity's greatest power isn't their ability to fight. It's our ability to protect what matters, Tom finished. Above them, ships from 100 worlds flew peacefully through the sky. The galaxy was changing, and it all started because everyone abandoned an alien princess, except the killer humans.